happy to be joined by Richard Carillo, lead game designer on Splinter Cell Blacklist. Let's just start with kind of an obvious question. What is the Blacklist of the title? In essence, sort of what is the scenario that Sam Fisher is finding himself in?
So Sam Fisher actually is back in the fold because of the Blacklist. The Blacklist is a terror ultimatum of escalating attacks on U.S. interests. What's really interesting is it's a list that actually is tied to a countdown. So that adds a lot more pressure on Sam as he's trying to get through the system, as he's trying to find out more information before the next attack happens. So as that countdown's going down, you can really feel the pressure as he's the new leader and has to make all the decisions.
I mean, obviously, Conviction kind of had a personal and vengeful quality to it. This has kind of a dire circumstances. How do you sort of use that narrative to alter how the player plays the game or how the player may play the game?
I think what's really interesting about this narrative is Sam is the leader now, right? So it's all his call, and it adds a lot more depth to Sam. In the past games, you have that voice in your ear. You're always kind of just doing what they say. Sometimes you don't. But overall, now it's Sam's voice. So pushing that narrative really adds a lot of depth to that character, really, and hopefully points to one of the biggest things we have in our gameplay, which is a lot more options for the player. It's his choice, his battlefield. He can do whatever he wants. He can build fourth echelon how he wants. It's up to the player to decide.
Well, that means it's up to you to somehow allow the player to do all that. I mean, especially as the lead designer, I can only imagine what the challenges are trying to give that much power to the player and how they design Sam, they design the game, and how they play the game.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, even just testing aside and all those issues that can come up when you really open up a big sandbox almost, and that's really what these levels are. It's a huge sandbox, so many different options for the player. It's very difficult to tune that. And when you look at the 3 different playstyles that we support, which is Ghost, Panther, and Assault, you really have to look at each one and make sure that each one is available. So what's really interesting with our team is we allowed one person to take each. And we said, you know what, you're going to be the advocate for this one. You play every level and you make sure that it's supported here. So with that in mind, we really were able to build a system that really allowed for all playstyles.
I think this also helps illuminate some of the reaction some people had after the presentation at E3, where it looked so much like an action game. But that's just one way that you can possibly play it. I mean, how do you sort of allow that much variety for the player and still call it Splinter Cell, still call it Sam Fisher, especially when you look at the classic games, that was slow crouching through the shadows.
Yeah, I mean, definitely with E3, the reaction was huge, right? And we really wanted to put that foot forward just because that's really the new thing that Blacklist has. The old Splinter Cell games had that Ghost style. Conviction brought a little more of that Panther style for players that don't want to be stealthy and lethal. Whereas now the Assault play style is a lot more run and gun. So we wanted to put that foot forward to say, hey, you know what, we have this too. And we were actually kind of excited about how much feedback we got, right? Everyone raging. And that really, it really made it concrete and what we already knew, that this is a stealth game, right? And what you saw today, we have a lot more stealth. We always had plans for stealth, and we just need to make sure that the fans could see it too.
It would appear that when playing the 2 levels, that they may at times from level to level favor a certain type of play style. Am I correct in thinking that?
What's really interesting is that, yeah, and when you look at daylight maps, right, you think, okay, that can't be stealth. Some levels obviously do kind of veer. What's really interesting is trying to veer the other way. These levels get really exciting and really open up when you look at a daylight map and you try to ghost it, or when you look at a nighttime map and you're like, whatever, there's a lot of guys everywhere. They can't see me. I can barely see them. If I use my goggles, I can, and I try to just assault it. So really opening up those playstyles honestly made it more interesting and more fun.
The one of the thing that struck me is one of the levels takes place in Benghazi. I don't know when you started to design that level. Obviously, that is now a city that is on, I think, many minds here in the West because of what happened during the Libyan Revolution. Where do you kind of strike that balance that you don't get too close to real events and it still is able to be in the realm of fantasy?
It's really difficult. I mean, with Tom Clancy games, we're always trying to make these narratives as realistic as possible. It's a huge part of the brand. And when people feel that story, they feel like, oh, this could happen. And that's what makes a story so deep. So we have to almost pick these hot spots in the world, right? You can't just pick Australia and say, oh, there's all these terrorists coming in here, right? It's just not believable. So obviously these tragedies do happen, and our thoughts and prayers are out to everyone affected, and they're horrible things. But when we did work on the game, 3 years ago, and so you pick these locations, you stick with it, and even when these events happen, you're just like, yes, we know they're hot spots, and these things can happen. We try to make sure, of course, that it isn't too close into that exactly what happened. So every now and then some things might switch a little, but what's great is Ubisoft does give us that freedom to build out this perfect narrative that's really deep and really powerful.
I realize this is all about single player today, but you guys did kind of allude to, and I saw it there, that there are co-op missions, there are side missions, that the variety of gameplay that's available right there, I guess, in the game during the single player playthrough is far greater than what I was expecting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the biggest Splinter Cell yet. What's great is we have our SMI, which is that main window into the entire game, and that really blurs the lines between everything. In Conviction, everything's split up into different menu systems. Some of it's really hidden because of that. We wanted to make sure that we showed everything in our best kind of foot forward. Everything was open and out front. So even to show off the SMI as we did today, we had to show off a little bit of taste of those co-op missions are. Talking to your other personnel on the plane gives depth to those characters, lets you know, hey, Sam Fisher isn't the only guy working. Everyone else is working, they have their roles, and they're trying to all work together to help solve this attack.
Yes, it's not a one-man show, as I think your entire team probably knows in making this game. Richard, thank you so much. The game comes out on the 20th of August?
Yes, 20th of August on Xbox 360, PS3, and PC.
All right, great. Thank you again for your time. If you guys want more Splinter Cell, I have a whole other interview about a bunch of other things to do with the game. Also, you can check out my impressions, so go do that.